In this video, we're going to go from this to this. Hey guys, it's Jamie here from ScanStore. In this video, I want to show you how to use our new ScanStore Metahuman identities to create unique heads and also to up-res your Metahuman textures. This is a Metahuman created using one of our ScanStore Mesh to Metahuman identities, but where the real magic happens is when we add our ScanStore textures, which does this. So you can see there's a huge difference between the ScanStore texture and the Metahuman original texture. And that mostly comes down to the one-to-one correlation between the albedo map and the normal and cavity maps that we supply. So let's get started. Let's start by choosing our Metahuman identity from 3D ScanStore. So go to Heads, scroll down to Metahuman Identities, and here you can see all the heads that we have available. There's currently 69 heads, but we'll be adding a lot more in the future. So for this tutorial, we're going to use this woman. She's got quite a cool face and some nice wrinkles that are really going to show up well in Unreal. Once you've downloaded your files, you'll have two folders and an image. So in the first folder, we've got our Mesh to Metahuman components. That's basically a decimated mesh with some eyes and the texture map. And the second folder, we've got our Metahuman textures. These are the albedo, the cavity, and the normal, and all of these are baked to the Metahuman texture UVs. And then lastly, we've got a reference image of the scan itself, which you can reference when you're making your Metahuman. Okay, so let's get started in Unreal. So the first thing you'll need to do is install the Metahuman plugin. So just click on that in the marketplace and install to engine. I've already got this installed on 5.3.2. The other thing you might want to install for this tutorial is the Metahuman lighting levels, because we'll be using those later on. So we will launch Unreal. And we'll just go into Film, Video, and Live Events, select a blank level, and turn off Starter Content and Ray Tracing. We don't need this for the first part, which is just Mesh to Metahuman. And just create that project. Now we've got our blank level open. The first thing we need to do is install the Metahuman plugin. So just right-click Settings and open Plugins, search for Metahuman, and just enable that. Say yes, and restart Unreal. Once that's restarted, you'll see that your Metahuman plugin will have been enabled. So we'll close that down and we'll open the content drawer. Now we need to import our ScanStore Mesh to Metahuman identity. So we'll just create a new folder and we'll just call it Mesh to Metahuman ScanStore. And now we want to import that FBX that I showed you earlier. So we'll just go to Import. We will find our ScanStore Metahuman, and we'll go to Mesh to Metahuman folder, and we'll import this FBX. Now we've got three components. We've got the shader, we've got the texture, and we've got the head. So now we can start using this to create our Mesh to Metahuman. So we're going to add the Metahuman animator Metahuman identity. And we'll call this ScanStore Head 48. And double click on that. And this will open up the screen. So what we want to do is add the head that we just imported. So we'll go to Create Component from Mesh, and we'll search for female. There she is. Now here's our FBX loaded in, and we'll just rotate that round to the front. And we need to change the camera settings here. So click this camera icon and change the field of view to 25. And just position the head so you can see all of the face. And then we also need to change this from lit to unlit. And now just choose a body type. So we'll just choose this body for her and click back on the neutral pose. And now we need to promote this frame. Just say yes to this. And now we need to track the markers. So we'll click Track Markers. And here you can see all the guides that define the eyes and the mouth and the eyebrows. And now we'll click Metahuman Identity Solve. Once that's done, just click this View Mix Mode in the middle, and you can see here that it's created a really good representation of our original FBX. Now we want to send this to Metahuman. So all we do here is click Mesh to Metahuman and Auto Rig Metahuman Identity plus Full Metahuman. Okay, so this is having a think about converting this to Metahuman. So whilst it's doing that, I suggest you load up Metahuman Creator. So I've just got a shortcut here. This can take a little while to load, so it's a good time to do it. So we'll do Unreal Engine 5.3 and launch Metahuman Creator. Okay, so it's finished creating our Metahuman, so we'll just click OK. And here we are in Metahuman Creator, and this is the ScanStore Head 48 that we've just made in Unreal, so we'll edit that. And now what we want to do is create somebody who looks roughly like the reference image that we've got, which is this one here. So brown eyes, basically, that's what we need to take away from this. So we'll go in here and we will create a skin, and we'll just select a skin color as similar to that of the reference image. So just sort of flick back between them. It doesn't have to be completely accurate. This is going to be replaced by our ScanStore texture anyway. So something like that will do. She's a bit older, so choose a slightly older texture maybe. We don't want anything too wrinkly. Maybe that one will do. Doesn't matter about the freckles. We're just looking at the wrinkles basically. Now for the eyes, give her some brown eyes. Teeth, let's just change the gum color a little bit. A bit more like that. Make the teeth a bit whiter maybe. And because she's a bit older, we'll just do a little bit of receding gums. There we go. Makeup, you can ignore that. Head, we want to add a hairstyle. I'm just going to use this one, I think. Here we go. And we'll just change the color of that a little bit. Bit of salt and pepper. There we go, something like that. And you can add clothes to them if you want. For this tutorial, I'm not going to be adding any clothes. I'm just going to be doing her like this in her underwear. So now that's finished, just click on My Metahumans, and we can go back into Unreal now. Okay, so here we are back in Unreal, and we want to close this last scene that we made, so we'll just close it down. You can save it if you want, but I'm not going to. And back in the Unreal launcher, so earlier I said that we should download this Metahuman lighting, so I'm going to use this for the scene. So if you download that, which I've already done, and create a project, and we'll just call it ScanStore Metahuman, and create. And now we'll launch Unreal. Okay, and in the browser, just select your lighting scene that you just created and click Open. And here we've got the quality settings, so we're going to use Epic and Ray Traced. Now we want to import our Metahuman that we've just created, so we'll go to Window and Quixel Bridge. And we'll click on the Metahuman tab here. And My Metahumans, and this is the Metahuman here. I've already downloaded this as the highest quality, so this has already been downloaded. This will turn into a download icon, just click that, and it'll download. It could take up to 20 minutes, depending on your internet speed. And once you've done that, just click this Add button here. And that's going to add your Metahuman to your content browser here. So this blueprint is your Metahuman itself, so we're just going to drag that into the scene. Okay, and it's placed her randomly over here, so we'll just zero out these location figures here, and then we have her in the middle. So let's have a look. So this is the standard Metahuman using the Metahuman textures, and what we want to do is replace these with our ScanStore textures. But before we do any of that, I'm just going to set up some lighting and a camera because I hate working on things in this sort of ambient light. So this is the default Metahuman lighting scene. So what I'm going to do here is just turn off or turn down the key light, turn it down to 0. And also this key light 2, turn it down to 0. And the top light, which is the one we're going to use for lighting, I'm just going to turn that up a little bit. And just click the parent and just rotate that around just so it's got a little bit more of a dynamic look. And now we're just going to change the field of view here to about 30. This is just a preview. We haven't added a camera or anything yet. This is just so it's a little bit more cinematic. And then we want to change the background color from white to something dark. So we'll just select this SM half background sphere, double click on the material, and this is the base color. So we're just going to turn that down to something quite dark like that. There we go. That'll do just for the initial setup. Now what we need to do is replace these textures with our high resolution ScanStore textures. So we'll go into content, we'll make a new folder, we'll call it ScanStore textures. Open that up, and we'll go to import. We will find our folder, we'll open the textures folder, and we'll just import these three: albedo, cavity, and normal. Okay, so we've got those in our content drawer. Now we need to open the shader for the Metahuman itself. So we'll go into Metahumans, ScanStore Head 48, Face, Materials, Baked, and this is the main shader. So we'll open this up, and we'll scroll down to the colors here, and then we will go into our ScanStore Textures folder. We'll select the albedo, and we'll just replace all four of these. And you can see it's got her new face texture on. We want to do the same with the normal map. Just replace the first normal map with the ScanStore normal. And with the cavity map as well, which is down here, we'll replace that. And there we have our ScanStore Metahuman identity with high resolution ScanStore textures. So you can see it makes quite a big difference. I'll just swap between the two textures here and you can see the difference that it makes. So here we have original Metahuman textures. And here we have ScanStore textures. And that's the basics of it. So obviously a lot of questions people are going to be asking is, what about the wrinkle maps? So I want to talk a little bit about those now. So in the Metahuman shader, we've got 1, 2, 3 wrinkle maps, and we can actually use these in combination with the ScanStore normal map. Obviously I can't sell these with our products because they belong to Epic and 3Lateral. So we have to combine these in Photoshop. So I'm just going to show you how to do that now. It's very, very simple. So the first thing we're going to want to do is select the 3 maps in question. So we'll just have our content browser, just click there. So we've got face normal, WM1, 2, and 3. So we can select those, right click, asset actions, and bulk export. And then we'll just choose the folder to put them. So I'll just put them in here. I'll make a new folder and I'll call them Metahuman textures. And we'll just select folder and that'll save those out. So now if we go into Photoshop and open that folder, you'll see those 3 textures are in there. So just open all 3. And we also want to open our original ScanStore texture that comes with the package. So textures, and open the normal map. Okay, so this is our ScanStore texture. So what we want to do is overlay this over the top of the Metahuman textures. So just copy that and then load up each one and paste it in. And then we're just going to go to layer and overlay. And you'll see this also retains some of the details from the one below, the original Metahuman normal map. So what we can actually do is just blur that ever so slightly just to get rid of the fine pore details. So we'll just go to filter and blur, Gaussian blur, do it on about 3.9. Do that for all of the textures. Filter, Gaussian blur, and again for the final one. And then just overlay those again. And now we just need to save these over the top of the files that we saved out. So we'll just merge the layers and save each one. Once those are saved, just go back into Unreal, and we will go into our scan store textures, and we want to import those 3 normal maps that we just saved out. So we'll go to Import, Female, Metahuman Textures, just re-import those. And now we just need to replace these with these ones. So WM1, replace. WM2, replace. And WM3, replace. So that's all. The wrinkle map should all work now. So all we need to do is create a level sequence. So just in Contents, add Cinematics level sequence. We'll just call this Metahuman level sequence. Double click that, open up the sequencer, and now we'll just simply drag our Metahuman on here. And what I actually like to do is open a separate window. So we'll just go to Viewports, Viewport 2, and just frame the control rig in that window so we can actually control the face without having to have the control rig and the camera in the same place. So we can zoom in here and we can see this all working. So you can see all the nice details. And if we do eye closed, you can see everything deforming correctly. You can see if the wrinkles work on our forehead. We'll just use these 2 here. Then we can do a full sort of facial movement test. Just select a bunch of these controllers. And then just move them around. You can actually hide this control rig just by clicking this. There we go. So yeah, it looks really good. So one thing that I like to do, let me just get rid of this sequence, just in terms of the actual Metahuman shader itself, I would increase a few things such as the spec and the roughness. So if we just go into Metahuman and we click on our Metahuman, we go to Face, Materials, Baked, and we open up the shader. One thing I think these could do with is slightly more spec. So we'll just scroll down to where the cavity is, and we've got specular here. So a value about 0.7, I think actually works quite well. Just gives you a bit more detail, some nicer highlights on the actual skin details here. So now we're just going to finish off the scene by adding a cinema camera and a rim light. So let's add in a rim light first. So we'll just click Light tab here, and we'll add a point light. Just drag it in, and we'll just zero the position, and we'll just find that down here. So we'll move it up. Put it in the right position. Just going to move it back a bit behind her. So that's a bit bright at the moment, so we'll just turn that down. Click the point light, just turn it down to 0.5 maybe. And maybe increase the source radius a little bit. Still a bit bright, I think. 0.2. There we go, that's looking good. And now we just want to add a cinema camera just so we can add a bit more of a cinematic feel to the scene. So to do that, we'll just go click on the cinematic tab here and drag in a cinema camera actor. And again, just zero that position. And I'll just find the cinema camera. Oops. And I'm actually just going to go and look through the actor camera here, just zoom it out. So this is totally out of focus, and the actual camera tracking doesn't actually work on the Metahumans. So what I like to do is add in a null object to track for the focus. So we'll just exit the camera, and we'll go to quickly add an object. We'll add a shape. We'll add a sphere, and I will set that sphere size to be 0, so we can't see it. And I'll just 0 the positions. And then I'll just drag it up. Camera's in the way there. Just hide it. Oops, moving the point light there. Drag it into position, roughly. And then we'll look back through our camera. And in our camera settings, we will first of all set this universal zoom to be 85mm, because that's a much more cinematic camera for portraits. And for the focus method, we'll select tracking. And for the actor to track, we'll select our sphere. And now we can actually use this object, the sphere, to actually focus. So if you want to focus on the eye, for example, you can just place that on the eye, and then when we zoom in, and we can also change the aperture a bit as well, because it's a bit high. So let's put it on 10, something like that. Turn the point light back on. And there we have it. Something else that's worth pointing out is that all of our textures are compatible with any Metahuman. So you can actually use any of our ScanStore Metahuman identity textures on any Metahuman that you create. So for example, I could swap this texture with a different one, like this, and it would still all work. And we can just keep swapping, use as many different textures as we want to create as many different identities or unique characters as you like. So if you've already created a Metahuman, you can just copy these textures on and use them. You can even use, you can use male ones and female. You can edit them in Photoshop, do whatever you want to change them. Generally speaking, though, textures work best with their actual Metahuman identity. So everything's always going to look better on the actual face of the person that they're supposed to be on. But yeah, it's just something that's worth pointing out. And I think if you are creating your own Metahuman from scratch, you can even use your albedo map and use our normal maps to help add detail, or, use our albedo maps to help add detail to your albedo maps. But I really hope this is useful. And please let me know if you've got any comments or questions in the comments below. Cheers, guys.